Hello, and welcome to my new Tears of the Kingdom challenge run, where I never touch the surface, not even once. The rules? It's quite simple. I can only play in the sky and in the depths. No Hyrule overworld, no easy landings, just pure survival and exploration in the most extreme environments this game has to offer. This is more than just a normal challenge, it's a test of creativity and endurance. Can I conquer the world of Hyrule without ever setting foot on its surface? Well, let's find out. Before we dive in, let me preface this by saying I'm playing on the latest version of Tears of the Kingdom, which is 1.2.0. That means no wild glitches like item duping from earlier versions. I'm going in as Nintendo intended. Now, for the sky portion of the challenge, I'm not allowed to touch the surface at all. That means no paraglider, making traversal a lot harder. No towers for fast travel, and no hoverbike. Let's see if this challenge is even possible without the hoverbike. But there's also more. I'm also aiming to get the Master Sword, which requires doing a ton of shrines in the sky. So not only am I skipping the surface entirely, I need to survive and thrive using just what the sky and depths have to offer. And speaking of the depths, this is where I'll be finding most of my strongest items and weapons, like the bombs, which I know will be crucial for making the boss gauntlet manageable at the end. I'll need to spend a good amount of time down there to collecting all these resources, especially the Zonite, just in case I need to craft a hoverbike later on. Another goal, defeating at least one Lynel, because what's a Tears of the Kingdom challenge without taking on at least one of those beasts? And of course, since Ganondorf is in the depths, taking him down is an absolute requirement. Duh. With all the ground rules set, let us dive in and see if I can survive this no-surface challenge. Let us begin. The start of the game is pretty much business as usual. You begin by exploring with Zelda, you get thrown to the Great Sky Island, and then eventually you will pick up the Master Sword. I also pick up a piece of clothing so that Link isn't completely naked because I want to keep this rated PG. Things kick off as soon as you arrive at the Temple of Time, and honestly, I struggle a bit with this first enemy because I am embarrassingly bad at this game. But hey, that happens. Honestly, there isn't really much to dive into for the early parts of the game that you haven't already seen already. I'll skip most of it just so that we can focus on what is really interesting. Just wanted to show a cool skateboarding with my shield. After I obtain all the orbs, I go back to the goddess statue and I get the extra heart. With that, I am able to finally open the door, and then I go past all the treacherous terrain, and I eventually send the Master Sword back to Zelda in the past. And with all of that story set up out of the way, now the real fun begins, because this is the actual challenge run. Unfortunately, I'm not the best at planning things out ahead of time. Kind of like the Joker once said, I'm a dog chasing cars. I wouldn't know what to do with one if I caught it. I just do things. So you'll see me pause occasionally trying to figure out my next steps on the fly. What I do know, though, is that I want to get the glide armor set. So I start searching for the Sky Islands that hold those pieces. After that, my next priority, actually my top priority, is to gather some fairies because let's be honest, I'm probably going to mess up and die a lot, especially when traveling between the sky and the depths. So that extra life cushion is absolutely crucial. From my time of watching videos from end streams of Player 5, I know that there are fairies near the second shrine, or kind of like the first island archipelago outside the second shrine. So I head there to kick off the no surface challenge. Now, watch as I attempt, and very poorly I might add, to utilize the wings to reach the first island with the fairies. Since this is my top priority right now, I absolutely need to make it over there. Luckily, after some trial and error, I managed to get the fairies. During this challenge and during this video, you will notice cuts and transitions because I had to save and load a lot to get things right. I'm not a Zelda expert, so there are definitely moments where I look, well, less than great. So please forgive my um, not being great at the video game. Like I said a little bit earlier, planning isn't really my strong suit, but sometimes I just get lucky. I stumbled across a floating platform and some rockets on the island with the fairies, which means I can build myself a quick makeshift mobile platform to hop between island to island. My plan here was to land in the water to avoid taking damage and wasting one of the fairies that I had just collected, but unfortunately, it was just a little bit too far. If I had the glide armor, it probably would have worked, but that's still a very long-term goal, and I won't be getting those for a little while. But despite the mishap, I managed to reach the island, sneak up on a couple enemies, grab some materials, and then continue my island hopping. My luck continues because as I'm traveling, I just happen to get to one of the islands with a Zonai dispenser that actually has rockets. Rockets are very important for traversal in the Sky Island Challenge, and I will be utilizing them every now and then. Probably more so in the beginning, but later on, I will have to find other dispensers that have other more important Zonai devices, such as the fans and the wings as well as the kind of handlebar in case I need to make a hover bike. A heads up, most of this video is going to be me solving puzzles, traveling, or navigating menus, so there won't be constant commentary, which could be a good thing or it could be a bad thing, depending on how annoying you find my monotone voice. Maybe the silence will be a nice break for you. I just make videos for fun whenever an idea pops into my head, so if you're here to watch a less than pro gamer stumble through a challenge, then hey, that's good enough for me. Thank you for being here. For this part, honestly, I have no idea what I was thinking. I really thought I could make the jump. At some point, I allowed myself to land on the surface just so I could quickly reload to my last save, but of course I forgot I had a fairy, so that was just a waste of a few precious seconds. I cut out most of the trial and error moments of the rest of the video, so you won't really have to endure too much noob gameplay like this. And eventually, I do manage to stumble upon the solution. Once again, with zero planning, I have no idea what to do next. I'm sitting there thinking, well, I don't have any useful items, there's no Zonai gear, nothing really useful that I can use at this point, so I don't really have a plan. Might as well just launch myself and see what happens. As you can probably guess, that probably wasn't the best idea. But again, by some stroke of luck, I spot some nearby chasms, and suddenly it hits me. Well, maybe it's time to head to the depths and hope I can land somewhere good. So let's try that out. My luck continues. I just so happen to land right next to the first Zonai mining factory, where you unlock autobuild. I have to say, this Joker mentality is really working out for me right now. I'm getting so lucky, and usually planning is the best action to first do. I am just getting way too lucky. As you may have guessed, auto build ends up being a total game changer for this challenge. It makes things so much easier, and I'm definitely going to rely on that a lot moving forward. Interestingly enough, Koga ends up being one of the toughest parts of this challenge for me. Maybe not this first fight, but especially with the second fight, he really destroys me. At this point, I don't have very many strong weapons, so fighting him really takes a long time. And spoiler alert, the second time, it's even worse. But here's the thing, increasing my Zonai capacity or the ability to use Zonai items is absolutely crucial for this challenge. So I have to fight him at least twice. The first fight with Koga drags on. Again, I don't have very strong weapons, but it's at least manageable. The second time though, oh wow, he really makes me work for it, so look forward to that. Now that I've got auto build, then just a little bit of traversing in the depths, I think I'm ready to start traveling more efficiently in the sky. So I give it another shot. However, I have seriously underestimated just how far apart the islands truly are in this game. I thought that this would be fairly manageable without resorting to any game-cheesing mechanics, but nope, the sky is really, really big. It is quite huge. I'm clearly in need of coming up with a new game plan. I have spent most of my traveling in the sky at the western portion of the sky, so now I'm thinking, you know what? It's about time to go more east. Go more east. See if there's anything I can do over here. And I know that there are important gear items, such as one of the glider outfits is in the eastern portion of the sky, as well as other important gears that I'm going to obtain later. So I'm thinking, you know what? This is just about the right time to do it now. I'm clearly stuck at the western side, so might as well go try another side, and hopefully this will bear more fruits than what I did previously. I was just trying to get my wing back just in case I needed it. That's why I'm very awkwardly trying to recall it back or trying to use Ultra Hand to get it back. Doesn't work out in the end, and honestly, I've never needed it. That's why it's there. So, remember how I said at the beginning that I wanted to attempt this challenge without using the hover bike? Yeah, that may have been a little bit too optimistic. The sky is indeed very massive in this game, and I just don't see another way to hop between islands efficiently and effectively enough. I know that some islands have rockets and zonai batteries to help out, but in my experience, those islands are few and far between. You'll see them pop up later in this video, but they're not as common as I initially hoped for. So I finally swallow my pride and decide to go after the fans and the steering stick to build the hover bike. This is the only way I'm going to make this challenge actually doable, in my opinion. If there are other ways that you think that this is possible, let me know. I look up where the best zonai dispensers for these items are, and they're in the sky. The problem is I cannot reach them. They are just too far away from my location, and I can't reach them. However, and luckily enough, there is one zonai dispenser in the depths that has everything I need. So I'm making the trek down there to get the pieces for that stupid hoverbike. I was honestly shocked to find out that the construct factory tied to Minoru's questline actually has the steering stick I need. Without being hyperbolic, Minoru basically saved this run. Minoru, I cannot thank you enough. I truly believe Tears of the Kingdom is one of the best games I've ever played. It's up there with The Witcher 3, Elden Ring, and Xenoblade Chronicles 3. But with that being said, the hover bike does kind of trivialize the euphoric feeling of discovery. It's just so easy to use and has such a low cost. And it does pain me that this is my saving grace. But, well, it's necessary to progress. Now that I've got it, I can finally travel to those far off islands that I couldn't reach otherwise. The hover bike gives Link both vertical and horizontal movement, making even the most distant islands accessible. Plus, zonite charges will be a key factor for keeping the bike going for longer. This is the moment I've been waiting for. As I make my way back to the depths, I run into a Frox. Now, you might be thinking, why bother fighting this thing? My weapon supply is already pretty limited, and they are not very powerful, so what's the point? Well, there's a couple of reasons. First, the Frox drop Zonite, which is key for spawning the hover bike with autobuild. But even more importantly, defeating it will give me some crystallized charges. And once I collect 100 of these, I can upgrade my Zonite energy cells, which will make traveling much more efficient. So yeah, fighting the Frox is actually pretty necessary. Plus, I can use a little bit more excitement in this run. So let's go do this. Now, this part of the run is probably the most boring part. As I mentioned earlier, I needed to face Koga again. Why? Well, just like with the Frox, it's all about the crystallized charges. But the real challenge here was navigating the depths with limited resources. Despite having the hover bike now, I didn't want to burn through my Zonite charges, or my Zonite more accurately. So I mostly had to rely on good old-fashioned foot travel. And let me tell you, this was actually pretty tough. The depths are a maze, and I got lost more than I would like to admit. Instead of showing you all the slow, frustrating wandering, I'll just highlight the light routes that I managed to find along the way. So I finally reached Master Koga again. This time, though, he's fighting in the air. And let me tell you, he's just as tanky as before. I figured with the right strategy and some well-timed arrow shots, I'd have a solid chance. However... And yeah, Koga absolutely kicked my butt. I kept trying to brute force my way with my minimal items, but it was clear I really needed to get stronger. Thankfully, the Yigas still love their bananas, and luckily for me, I find a few lying around in the crates around the arena. So I cooked them up for that sweet attack up bonus, and thankfully this time the fight went in my favor. So in the depths, you will find small zonite and large zonite. The small zonite I use to make the hover bikes again in the sky. However, the large zonite I actually use to trade in for the large zonite charges. This will allow me to use the hover bike for much further distances because it kind of recharges the energy because as it's about to deplete. So it allows me to go on for much further. The large zonite have no other function for me in this challenge other than buying large zonite charges. So this flight is one of the longest so far in the game. I don't want to use zonite charges unless I absolutely have to. So I actually use Ultra Hand and Rewind to give myself just a little bit more distance when I start using my energy. Just small optimizations to make the trek a little bit easier. After that long trek, my Zonai energy was completely drained. So I had to wait for the energy to fully replenish before moving on. In the meantime, I thought, hey, why not try fighting this Flux construct? That is until I realized that it was a level 3 construct, way beyond my current capabilities. So now I'm scrambling to get away, and of course, I die. But thankfully, I was loaded back on the island, which gave me just the chance to spawn another hover bike and then just barely get on my journey again. So finally, I make it to one of my prioritized destinations, one of the pieces of the glide suit. This will be super helpful in a lot of situations throughout the challenge. I assumed I needed to start from the top of the island, so I took the big dive. It turns out the challenge actually starts at the bottom, so yeah, I had to do the dive twice. This shrine is one of the few where I had to get a little bit creative, especially without the paraglider. Normally, you'd use the paraglider with the wind for bullet time, but since that is off the table, I had to improvise. I always like to fuse a wing onto my shield though. This allows me to jump a little higher and a little bit farther. Using that shield jump with the wing gives me just enough height to trigger bullet time and complete the shrine's objectives. And here I had to take the dive again in order to get the first glide armor piece. I had to give a zonai charge to him, and then after doing that, I was able to get the armor piece. You will see me return to this goddess statue a couple times in order to get more stamina, because of course I need stamina to pull the Master Sword from the Light Dragon. So this is something I'm still confused about, even after finishing this run. I was up on the hover bike, clearly high in the air, but somehow the game still registered me as landing on the surface. This only happened when I was flying over Hyrule Field. So, to play it safe, I decided to avoid flying directly over that area for the rest of the run, even though I was clearly still in the sky. I checked the map, and sure enough, the surface is now loaded. Unfortunately, I am forced to restart. Was this a really weird transition? Yeah, it was for me too. I should mention there are a few weird transitions like this throughout the run, and I apologize for not recording certain gameplay moments. I forgot to press record, and some of the footage is just gone. This is one of those times. In my head, I knew that energy consumption would be the most important part of this challenge. The Zonai armor set, once fully collected, doubles Link's energy, so I decided to pivot towards the eastern side of the sky to get my first piece of Zonai armor. Since I still don't have the paraglider, I had to find another way to reach the top, because usually you use the paraglider for the wind. This resulted in a very fun puzzle leading to the shrine inside. After completing that very fun shrine, I finally got the Zonite Waistguard. When I first started this challenge, I thought that the glide suit would actually be the most important armor for this run. And while it's definitely useful, the Zonai armor's effects are just game-changing for this challenge. And with the Waistguard in hand, I now need to complete more shrines and gather the rest of the Zonai armor set, and of course, still hunt for the remaining pieces of the glide suit. I still need more shrines and more orbs, and more stamina before I can get the Master Sword. This hover bike has been incredibly useful for covering long distances, but it doesn't quite get enough height to reach my next destination. And because I'm too lazy to head back to the depths to farm more large zonites, I decided to create a new version of the hover bike. This one built specifically for height. So now I've got two different bikes for different purposes, one that prioritizes horizontal movement and one designed for vertical ascent. So I completely forgot that fusing a ruby to my shield grants cold resistance, and I ended up wasting a meal that gave me extra hearts instead. Yeah, I'm a little salty about that one. On a different note, I've got to say, a lot of these sky shrines are actually really well designed. The puzzles to activate them have a great flow and actually remind me of traditional dungeons puzzles from past Zelda games. It's a random thought, but it's one of the things that I really appreciate about Tears of the Kingdom. I got the second set piece of the Zonai armor. A little while earlier, I also got a second piece of the glider suit, which is really cool. So I'm almost done getting both armor pieces, or getting the full entire set, which is really cool, and both will be very useful for this run. I'm honestly really upset about this one. I could have just loaded back to a previous save, but I was too mad to even think straight. So instead, I ended up wasting two fairies because one, I couldn't control the hoverbike properly, and totally botched moving across the arena. It's definitely one of those embarrassing moments that's hard to shake off. So this is one of those times where I forgot to record. I'm still using my trusty Day 1 Switch from 2017, and as you can probably guess, it tends to overheat a lot. After a quick cooldown, I got back into the game, only to realize, yep, I forgot to hit record once again. Classic. But hey, the shrine puzzle itself was actually pretty cool. Of course, without the paraglider, I had to rely on the hoverbike to get around, but in this area, it was a little bit tough to control. Definitely do not recommend. This is one of my mandatory visits to the depths in order to get more Zonite for the hoverbike. So what I do is I'll fight enemies or camps of enemies, and they will usually hold a lot of Zonite, roughly 60 to 80. and that will last me for a little while up in the air until I have to come back. So this is one of those kind of recycled visits to the depths to allow me to fly more in the air. All right, so this is another one of those moments that I'm really confused about. I thought the blood moon only triggered after you land on the surface. Since I haven't touched the surface yet, remember I reloaded that one time it did trigger in, I figured the blood moon wouldn't spawn here, but it did. So yeah, I'm really confused. But hey, we're getting closer to finishing all the necessary sky shrines, so the end is in sight. So this is super awkward and very frustrating. But a lot of my laptop files and videos got corrupted while editing. Unfortunately, this means I've lost about an hour's worth of footage. So right now, you see Link with all the necessary shrines completed in the sky, already in possession of the Master Sword, and, well, he's already completed the game. It's all gone. But hey, I guess in a way, this could be a blessing in disguise since it shortens this video because it's already getting pretty long. What you're seeing here is the hero's path I took. Full disclosure, this is only accessible from the surface. After the credits, I played the game a little more. I saved Robbie from the depths, showed Josha the depths picture and auto build, completed the water dungeon, and helped Robbie fix his hot air balloon so that he can return to Hateno Village. That's when I could access the hero's path. Now, just to clarify, I never saved the game at any point during this after credits run in order to avoid recording the surface on the map during the actual challenge. So staying true to the challenge's rules. I know that sounds very confusing, but to sum it up, despite the corrupted footage, I remained within the guidelines I set. And now I'm going to show you a few things before I wrap up the video. Just to clarify a little bit further, the green lines I'm showing here only represent Link's journey in the sky and in the depths. While the surface is visible on the map, the green lines never highlight in the surface, which proves that I never went there. I specifically wanted to show the path I took after landing near the water temple, which is the last part of the recorded footage I have before the files got corrupted. Essentially, I completed the eastern portion of the map and then moved on to finish the western side of the map. One more thing I want to mention. Finding the light dragon took forever. I basically camped near Death Mountain, waiting for her to fly into view. It took a long time, but unfortunately, that footage was also lost. That's probably the part I'm most upset about, as it is an important moment in Link's journey. One of the goals I set for this challenge was to defeat at least one Lynel from the depths. I had already taken down a few from the Colosseum, as you can probably tell from the Lynel parts that I've collected. But I wanted to go after a few more to gather extra parts and, of course, capture the footage. So here you'll see me battle a few more Lynels before I wrap up and head into the endgame. I almost forgot to mention, while I was in the depths near the Deku Tree, I found another Yiga-controlled Coliseum, and they were kind enough to lure me in with a ton of bananas. I cooked up several attack-up dishes using those bananas, which will definitely help out against the Lynels right now, and later in the boss gauntlet and against the Ganondorf himself. With all the Lionels defeated, it's time to head back to the surface for some final preparations. I cook up a few more dishes to make sure that I've got plenty of healing items for the boss gauntlet ahead. I also take a few naps because there's a really cool shrine in the sky that I want to visit, and I need some time to pass before I can access it. The final stretch is coming up. In the Proving Grounds Lights Out Shrine, you start out naked and are tasked with taking down all the constructs in a stealth based mission. But here's a neat little trick. One of the constructs drops several rupees that he fuses his weapons with. And the best part, you can actually return to the shrine and pick up those rubies. I've managed to grab around 6 of them, and they really help make the final fights faster and safer. Well, as long as you know how to aim properly. And this isn't really a glitch or an exploit, just a cool little mechanic I found that hasn't really been covered yet. Definitely a nice little bonus for this challenge. This is my last cycle in the depths. I'm heading out to gather some more bombs, definitely one of the most important items in Link's arsenal, and of course more Zonai for the hover bike. I can't stress enough how crucial these items are for completing the challenge, especially with all the traveling and boss fights ahead. And here I'm just wrapping up the last of my preparation work. I'm stopping by a dispenser to grab some more rockets. These are absolutely crucial for one specific battle coming up. Oh, and I'm grabbing another fairy too, because let's be honest, I'm gonna need it. Better safe than sorry. And now the moment of truth, the descent. Since I've already beaten the game, most of the enemies are cleared out, which makes this final march to Ganondorf a lot smoother than last time. But trust me, I definitely need that fairy. There's no way to stop my fall without some kind of exploit, so that extra fairy is crucial to keep the run going safely. This part was definitely tricky. Surviving these last two falls is no easy feat. At first I tried to use the wings, but controlling its vertical descent was way too difficult. So I switched to the vertical hoverbike method. I initiate it, then cancel it, and repeat that process until I land safely on the ground. And it actually works perfectly for these final two descents. Before we dive into the final part of the run, I'm taking a few moments to get rid of a few weapons I just do not need. Most of the gear I'll use against the bosses actually dropped from the horde, so it's time to optimize my inventory. I'm also making sure my shields have bombs for some bomb jumps. Alright, now it's time to take on Ganondorf's minions. Alright, so here's the strategy. For these waves, I'm going to use bomb shields to get some air time in order to bullet time and blast the horde with either rubies or bombs. However, I also need to pick up some key weapons from the hordes. Against the bokoblins, I'll grab the soldier's broadsword. Its quick charge effects will come in handy, especially when fused with the Lizalfo's tail. Against the Lizalfos, I'll go for the royal halberds. This extra power boost during flurry rushes make them invaluable for Ganondorf. And for the moblins, the Royal Claymore is perfect, especially with its raw damage and its spin attack, which will also help a lot against the bosses. In the meantime, I'm fusing bombs to my shield so that I can take advantage of bullet time, making the whole section much easier. Also, I must mention that I will pick up the Gibdo bones because they are, when fused with the arrows, they do a lot of raw damage. So here I actually made a mistake. I accidentally fused a Lynel part to a Royal Broadsword, a weapon I didn't even mean to pick up. I didn't notice this mistake until later in the boss rush. Thankfully, it's just a minor inconvenience. It doesn't really change much. All I need to do is fuse another part to another Claymore because I need at least 2 good ones for the bosses.
Okay, this is why getting those rockets was so crucial. Fusing wings to arrows just doesn't give me the distance or precision needed to hit Colgera's weak spots. But with rockets, I can easily take care of him. I do miss on the last shot of the first phase, however, which causes me to fall and waste a frame. But hey, it's no big deal, I have an extra one ready. Still, rockets definitely make Colgera, a whole lot easier. So here I start off with the Claymore spin attack on Marble Goma's weak spot, thinking I've got it all figured out. I jump off because I assumed that she was recovering, and then I realize I was totally wrong, so I get back up on her weak spot, ready to continue my spin to win strategy. Except I equipped the Royal Broadsword by accident. It's not a big deal, though it just wasted a little bit of time to fix that. But hey, it's all part of the journey. I'll be able to fix it and then defeat Marble Goma without any issue. Alright, so here comes Muktarok. The plan is to bomb jump, get some height, use bullet time with arrow fuse with a water item, and then to hit him because his only weakness is water. Got a few opals and choo-choo jellies ready to make this work. The first phase works out pretty well. However, on the second phase, I do mess up on the bomb jump and it kind of cancels itself. And this ends up me taking some very annoying damage. But it's not a big deal. I quickly recover, adjust, and then take Muktarok down. It's always a little bit messy, but we always get there in the end. Ugh, Queen Gibdo. I've had a run end here because her attack patterns are just so frustrating to deal with. But we've got the plan. Bomb jump into the bullet time, hit her with the fire fuse arrow, and then shoot her with the Gibdo bone in order to make her stunned. If she's not stunned, she will recover very quickly and then just absolutely wreck me. The second phase, though, is a little bit more difficult to deal with. Not really because of her, but because of her minions forming around her. They managed to deal a little bit of damage to me and deal some aggro, but in the end, it's really nothing to panic. I'm able to get your job done, and King Good Bill finally goes down. It wasn't that bad this time, just had to play cool. Now for the Sea's Construct. This is exactly why I had to pick up the Soldier's Broadsword in the first Horde. This fight with the Sea's Construct would be a nightmare otherwise. The thing has so much health that I can't possibly break through before my weapons break. So what do? I use wires against it to deal the damage. The key is stunning it with the fire or the bomb rolls, and once it's stunned, I can go in with a quick spin attack from the Soldier's Broadsword. It's actually a pretty easy fight, as long as you keep your distance and manage to stun it long enough to keep it locked down. With the right rhythm, it doesn't stand a chance. Phantom Ganon is actually the easiest one of them all, and it's the same process as before. Bomb jump into a bullet time, and then use the fuse arrows with either a bomb or a ruby to finish the job. It's actually not much of a challenge, and once you've got the strategy down, this fight becomes pretty easy to handle. After the boss rush, it's time to go to Ganondorf. First, I pick up some of the weapons dropped by Phantom Ganon. I honestly don't even use them against them because I'm going to be using either the Master Sword or the Royal Halberds because I don't really need anything else. Ganondorf's first phase is pretty straightforward as long as you nail the timing. Thankfully, I've got it down pretty well, so I can easily flurry rush him for some massive damage with the Royal Halberd. It's all about precision and patience with the first phase, and I get him down pretty quickly.
Take this!
Now, Ganondorf's second phase is, in my opinion, the most difficult one because of all the clones he summons. I tried to do a bomb jump and then bullet time with ruby shots, hoping it would either wipe out all the clones or at least deal some massive damage. Unfortunately, it didn't go as planned and I ended up losing my last fairy. Fortunately, Ganondorf actually rushes after me, and this gives me the perfect opportunity to just do a flurry rush and then finish the phase off. Ganondorf's third phase is basically a replay of the first phase, but with the twist that he can now flurry your flurry. When I first played the game, I thought it was such a cool twist, but now that I know the timing, I can just flurry him to knock it down very, very quickly. I used the Royal Halberd for the first flurry and then finish him off with the Master Sword. I was really hoping to recreate the full tennis fight, like in Ocarina of Time, when the gloom kind of surrounds me in a circle, but I only got a little bit of it. But no big deal, it still goes down, and the Master Sword does the job. Thank you, Zelda. The final fight against the Demon Dragon is pretty much the same as any playthrough. The Light Dragon helps me reach the weak spots so I can take them out one by one. It's basically just an auto-scroller, but it's a fun one. Lynels' battle isn't really anything too different, still satisfying conclusion to the challenge. A quick review before we end the game. As you can see, the map here only registers the sky and the depths. The surface? It's like it doesn't even exist in my journey. This was such a fun run, and honestly, I didn't plan much from the start. Just play with that Joker mentality. I loved the unpredictability. But now, it's time to finish it all. Final blow to the Demon Dragon, and then save Zelda. This challenge was one heck of a ride. And that's it. We did it. The challenge that started off with just the sky and the depths turned into one of the most intense, unpredictable, and rewarding experiences I've had in Tears of the Kingdom. From struggling with limited resources to adapting on the fly, it was a wild ride that tested my creativity and patience. And even though I didn't use the surface at even one time in this challenge run, I still managed to push through with the tools and strategies I had at my disposal. It's a testament to how much this game lets you make your own path. Thank you so much for sticking with me through this entire challenge. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more Tears of the Kingdom content, challenges, and adventures. I'd love to hear your thoughts. What would you try in a challenge run like this? Let me know, and I might be excited to try a new one. Wait, Link is walking on the surface.
Well, can you beat Tears of the Kingdom without landing on the surface? Apparently not. Bad game.